Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion. Today, we're going to talk about ACOAs and breaking the cycle. So, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and it is my honor and privilege, and I'm just plain thrilled to have this discussion with you this morning. Okay, so before we get started, another shout out to Janet Geringer-Woitzitz, who's the author of Adult Children of Alcoholics. It's an oldie but a goodie, and she's been around for a long time. Really the big boom with this ACOA movement was back in the 80s with Janet and also Claudia Black, and maybe some others for sure, but those are the two power women I kind of latched onto, and it was life-changing, really, to get going with this whole archaeological dig, of what all the Meshuggah, all the craziness that went on, in our household due to addiction and mental illness. So I'm not gonna read off Janet's whole list here, but she does kind of start off with adult children of alcoholics, ACOAs, guess at what normal is, right? So now we're talking about breaking the cycle. And who's to say what normal is? Excuse me. Who's to say what normal is? The normal police or the normal judges in a big long black robe sitting at a big mahogany desk doesn't drop the hammer and kind of decide what normal is. So honestly, that really doesn't matter. How you grew up is how you grew up. We can't turn the clocks back, can't change it. So really, what's important here, and one of my favorite skill sets that there is in the world, because it's what really gets us through, what's really important here is for you to let go of any thoughts of changing your past. And how we make peace with it really is by reframing. So there could have been all kinds of things that were just unjust, just not okay in anybody's world. Not okay in anybody's world. And what we can do, myself included, because I've been working on this for years, is to look back. I think it's even a saying in the 12-step programs, but take what you want and leave the rest, right? So if you have a few good memories, keep those, all right? If you, out of all the unjust bad things that happened to you, we no longer need to hang on to any of that in a way to feel validated and to have a story and to, tell people and to get all this, payoff out of hanging on to that. What we can do is reframe it, because I know for me, this is just my own example. I wouldn't change anything. I would not change anything about my, you know, just all the craziness and chaos and violence and emotional and physical abuse that happened in my household. And then there was also the sexual abuse outside of my household with an extended family member. And you know what? I wouldn't change any of it, because all of it contributed to who I am today. And would I want to relive it? No, absolutely not. Do I like and love who I am? Absolutely, which means I wouldn't change a thing. I have reframed my past into all the positive things for which I'm grateful. I'm not saying I'm grateful for being abused. No, I'm grateful for who I became because of all of that. Okay, and then the next one Janet talks about is ACOAs often have difficulty following through on a project from beginning to end. That's interesting because especially procrastination is a big box to check with ADHD, and is the only one out of all three types I don't have, right? It's broken into, there's the inattentional type, the impulsive type, and the combined type. I'm the combined type. I have every single symptom there is except that. It's interesting because I chalk that up to being the proud prodigy of two alcoholic parents, because I learned early on that if I, wanted to get something done, I had to get on it myself. And right through adulthood, I got my kids on preschool lists, like, months ahead. I think I was still pregnant with one of them once. I just too afraid to wait till the last minute. But obviously that isn't true for everybody. And her suggestion here is, to find out whether you were really truly, wired for procrastination, or if it just wasn't modeled for you, because there's a process with a project. It's important, first of all, to realize that, when you take on a project, what's involved? Is this doable? Are there some, abstract parts to it that aren't defined for me, so I wouldn't know which way to go? If they're abstract and they're therefore poorly defined, that's an easy window to throw in the towel when you don't know which direction to go. So that may not have been modeled for you. So is it, a natural wiring? Is it that no one ever showed me how to follow through on a project, or is it a combination of both? So she talks about here, she's in the beginning, you need to be very aware of what the process is so you can follow it, and so that you not do not get stuck along the way and begin to judge yourself, which is kind of what we just said. She said, then you need to develop a step-by-step plan in order to accomplish it. See, if no one ever taught you how to, do this, maybe write it out. And now with technology, it's easy to, there's all kinds of software out there, and then give yourself some concrete steps, concrete, so that there's, what to do, and that the goals are realistic. That's just true in life. If you set goals that aren't realistic, no one's gonna follow through with it, right? It's Mount Everest, and we're not gonna do it, more than likely. So, setting realistic goals, knowing what's involved, and mapping out a crystal clear plan to get there. That's really what we're talking about. All right, and then, there's the part with ACOAs often lie when it's easier or just as easy to tell the truth, and that's because there's payoff in it. So here's the thing, we as human beings do not do anything unless there's payoff in it. And that can be, positive or negative. Payoff is still payoff. And if it got us out of stuff to lie, here's the thing is that becomes problematic, is that when lying becomes automatic, because habits aren't made or broken, they shift, right? We've talked about that in other episodes. And so really the only way out of this automatic, very dangerous habit of lying is to become aware we're doing it and then stop it. So that is like the Nike commercial, just stop. So you become aware of it without judging yourself, because remember, you learned it. And if it's been a habit for years and years and years, maybe even decades, depending on how old you are now, realize too to cut yourself some slack and realize that you're on the road to progress, not perfection. So really the main thing is awareness, is to catch yourself. And like anything else, when we practice it, we inevitably get better at whatever it is we're practicing, whether it's robbing banks or playing the violin. And so one of the things I say a lot is Aristotle. I'm a big Aristotle fan, and very paraphrased, he said, gazillions of years ago, that if only we would practice virtues like we practice anything else, like, playing soccer, or, cooking, or, the violin, like we said, or whatever. Imagine if we practice virtues like honesty and loyalty and patience and all these, how much better the world would be, because it's not like somebody just won, the lottery ticket for honesty. That's not how it works. Genetics can play a role to a degree, but practicing honesty, lo and behold, will make us more honest. So really, it's about catching ourselves and shifting out of that habit. It's about 21 days on average is when a habit will begin to shift. And remember that when we practice something, not only do we get better at it, but it gets easier. It's lower maintenance. And if you've got, a partner at home, or sibling, roommate, adult parent, anybody, somebody living with you who you can confide in, who's safe, and ask them to help you with this habit. Like if you notice, to very gently and lovingly guide you out of that place. Not that we're putting responsibility on them, no, but to ask for support with that is totally fine if it helps get you out of it. You can even have fun with it. You can have like a lying jar, and every time you get caught in a lie, you got to put $1 in. Maybe after a month without any lies, you get to keep all the money, something like that. But the main thing, it's awareness, and like the Nike commercial, just do it, or just don't do it in the case of lying. So this next one is a big one, because we talked about it in a different episode, that ACOAs often judge ourselves without mercy. That was definitely me. I was so hard on myself for years, not outwardly. People didn't know. I didn't walk around self-deprecating externally. I'm like, in my head, I was like, oh, there I go again. Or why can't, I just was so hard on myself. And really, we have to figure out, this is the beginning of an archaeological dig for you, maybe. What is the payoff? We just talked about this. We don't do anything as human people without payoff in it. And it doesn't mean that that is positive. Self punishment is actually one of the biggest, most rewarding payoffs there is. And it might not make rational sense, because why do we want to punish ourselves? Well, that's an easy answer, actually. We punish ourselves. We enjoy punishing ourselves. It's payoff to punish ourselves sometimes if that's being mistreated and criticized so frequently as children was became familiar to us. That was, if that was our quote unquote normal, that's what we became used to. even if cognitively speaking, we know it isn't healthy, this is in the hard drive, this is in the vault, as I like to say, in the unconscious. We have to bring that to the surface in order to really start to make some changes with it. So Janet Jeringer-Wojcicki says, to ask yourself, what do you gain by judging yourself? What do you gain by judging yourself? We're talking about the payoff here. Why do you never judge on the good side? Why do you never pick out those things that make you special and wonderful? What is your need to come down on yourself? The answer is probably simple. Misery is familiar, and you have learned how to deal with distress. Life going really well is unfamiliar to you, so you don't know how to manage it. Basically here we're talking about this need to criticize ourselves and judging ourselves without mercy also can lead to self-sabotaging, right? Because when we've been sabotaged externally, and we learned that, okay, it's kind of like the self-fulfilling thing where it's like, I'll show me, and we just kind of jump on the train with the people who criticized us, um, and kind of continue to do this to ourselves. And so that is then self-sabotage, and it's a form of self-abandonment, which is big. So we've got to really dig deeply to uncover what's going on there, because that's huge and something that really needs to be redirected so that we can get back in touch with that feeling of original worthiness we came into this world with, in order to um, keep going forward on a path to authenticity, so we can live the highest version of us and really see the highest version of us and live our best life. This is a big one to turn around. Also, just a reminder that these videos are certainly not meant to be in the place of professional treatment. Strongly encourage, seeking out a good therapist. And as mentioned, I was in an ACOA group way back when, because the combination of I guess, psychoeducation, the information, together with therapy is really like the best thing. So Janet says, when she keeps going, she says, when things start turning around, when they start looking and feeling better, then life can often become unmanageable. And she says it's not unusual for the progress to be sabotaged. Even with a warning, the need for the familiar often takes precedence. That's because what the unconscious drives the bus. So all these things were said to us are in the vault, and everything can really kind of pull us back in with a strong force to stay with what's familiar and comfortable, even if it's not healthy. And this is why, therapist is a very good idea. And also that I found the group thing way back when I was 18 years old to be enormously, enormously helpful, because when you're in a group with, 8 or 10 or 12 other people who've experienced something similar, it can be so wonderfully rewarding. And then lastly, many ACOAs, really we take ourselves way and life way too seriously, and we often don't know how to have fun, because we everything was just so intense growing up, and we often repressed as kids that very natural tendency to play. And so it is never too late to have a happy childhood. I actually had a button. I wore that button in college, I think, on my jean jacket. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. There's so much. Your inner child is there. Everything we need is right inside of us. And let that inner child out to play. Now's the time to take art lessons, or buy yourself a model train set, or who cares? Just go ahead and do it. And if it's easier for you too, like, as far as being outside and making sandcastles at the beach and all that, it can be easier to incorporate, to sort of bring along the masters of play. Find yourself, if a niece or nephew, your own kids, whatever, because it also just makes it easier, just to jump in on sandcastle making or playing with model trains if you've got a kiddo around. And if not, who cares? Just get out there and make your own sandcastle, and, go to amusement parks and do all that good stuff. It's never too late to have a happy childhood, and just let your inner child out, because he or they are in there for sure. And your inner child knows what to do. So, and then of course, catch yourself taking life too seriously and fact check, because when we've been conditioned for things to be intense and serious, the majority of the time we're used to it. So ask yourself in that moment, is this really that intense and serious and important, or is that just me, jumping to that place? Is whatever this is really that important? I don't need to be a DEFCON 4. And talk yourself down. So really, awareness is key, just like it is with most things. And to catch ourselves and shift out of these habits and lean into, lighter. We're not saying be irresponsible. We're talking about being lighter, more playful, and letting that inner child out to play and to heal. Okay, I think that is pretty much it. Break the cycle. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the chilly, I think it's like -20, northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.